The mission of the City School District of Albany is to educate and prepare all students for college and career, citizenship and life, in partnership with our diverse community. Superintendent.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board. I had the privilege to join the members of our Government Relations Committee and staff members Tuesday afternoon for the first step of our legislative advocacy process for this school year. Our team met with Jamie Frank, who is the Governor's Assistant Secretary of Education, to discuss our top funding priorities for the 2018-2019 school year. We've identified 5 priority areas at this early stage of our budget development process. The priorities are aligned with our academic plan, specifically to address early childhood literacy, college and career readiness, social, emotional supports, and community engagement. It was a very productive meeting with excellent questions and information shared from all points of view. The Assistant Secretary commended us for providing concrete examples of how our state funding for the current year has been put to good use to address the needs of our students and our families. She also expressed that the state is having its own revenue challenges, which may impact their 2018 budget process, and that, of course, includes funding for schools. We formally began our own budget development process with a review of the budget calendar next month, and I look forward to working with you and our staff to build a budget for the 2018-2019 school year that will allow us to continue providing the programs and services our students need and deserve. On the morning of Tuesday, October 10th, a group of students at O'Neill Middle School started the day with their class and various activities in physical education in the gymnasium. So what's so noteworthy about that? It marked the official completion of the renovation project for our new middle school. Excuse me. The completion of the gym renovation was the last piece in that project. We are pleased to have all systems, operational at O'Neill. I would like to commend Bill Hogan and our facilities team, as well as the O'Neill co-principals, Malik Jones and Candy Antonetti, and their staff for the hard work and patience that it took to see us through this project. Yesterday, I sent out a letter to all of our families with some important dates regarding our district wellness policy. I wanted to let our families know that the board is in process of reviewing the policy and that we will be sharing additional information as this process moves forward. The letter is available here tonight as well as at albanyschools.org. The policy committee will be discussing the wellness policy at its meeting on November 8th. An important clarification regarding that meeting is that the policy committee is also meeting this coming Monday, October 23rd, but the wellness policy is not on that agenda. It will be on the agenda for November 8th. As with all of our board committee meetings, we welcome all community members to attend the policy committee. The meetings are held at Academy Park beginning at 5:30 p.m. You can find all of our board committee dates and times and locations at albanyschools.org. Our school district recently has been experiencing internet speed and bandwidth issues that have caused occasional phone and web outages. To fix these problems, we are scheduling a planned 30-minute service outage on Friday morning. The outage will begin at 11 a.m. Our phone system will not be able to receive outside calls during this 30-minute period of time. If there is an emergency situation during that time and you need to reach a school or the office or department urgently, please contact the Director of Communications, Ron Lesko, at 518-376-0013. 518-376-0013. He will connect you with the right person to address the situation. Our internal phone system also will be working during the outage, so our own communication between buildings will not be interrupted. We expect that Friday's troubleshooting will allow us to fix the problems that have caused the periodic outages. As always, your patience and consideration are very much appreciated. 2 of our teachers were recognized this week for outstanding contributions in their fields. The Capital Area Speech, Language, and Hearing Association has recognized Arbor Hill Elementary School speech teacher Dawn Ray with its 2017 Distinguished Service Award. Ms. Ray's career in education spans more than 3 decades, the past 23 years serving children and families right here at Arbor Hill Elementary School. And congratulations are also in order for Albany High School science teacher Shannon Stevenson. Shannon has been accepted into the New York State Master Teacher Program. She is the 5th teacher in our district accepted to this prestigious program. I am also pleased to announce that Albany High School has recommended 3 of our exceptional seniors for the 2018 Presidential Scholars Program. The students are Kevin Baez, Max Heller, and Monica Cabahung. Each student was selected based on outstanding academic achievements, leadership skills, and well-rounded areas of interest. We have forwarded these recommendations to Assemblymember Pat Fahey, whom you all know is a great advocate for all of our students. The New York State Department of Education will announce the list of students nominated for the program later this fall. Please give them a round of applause. We also would like to recognize 11 of our Albany High School student musicians on their selection for the Area All-State Music Festival coming up in November. The annual event features outstanding music students throughout the Capital Region. Students were selected based on scores they received at New York State School Music Association auditions last spring. The students are Robert Ackerman, Richard Andrews, Alexandra Sipos, Logan Bennett, Sophia Fasolo, Anna Kennedy, Elle Sol-Stritch, Maria Stritch, Reeve Churchill, Elizabeth O'Toole, and Fiona Strisnivsky. So let's give those students a round of applause. I would now like to invite Assistant Principal Janet Escoto Lavoie to step forward for a brief presentation about the great things happening here at Arbor Hill Elementary School. Flip the, it's a.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Arbor Hill. The Arbor Hill School mission is to stimulate and nurture the intellectual, emotional, social, and physical growth of every child. Our school vision is at least 1 year of growth for 1 year of education. So I am only going to read to you guys just a few things because you have the PowerPoint and I don't feel that I need to read it to you since I know all of you can read. So as of today, our total enrollment, and that was left blank because we have been getting students daily, is 387 students. We have 4 sections of pre-K, 3 sections of K2, 2 sections of grades 3 through 5, 2 sections of an 8-1 to 2 ED classroom, 3 sections of an 8-1-3 autism classroom, and 1 co-teach at the 3rd grade level. 29 teachers, 5 non-classroom amazing teacher professionals, 7 teaching assistants, 1 homeschool coordinator, 1 community psych coordinator, and 2 administrators, 4 full-time custodians, 2 of them are in the morning, and then 2 are in the evening, and 1 of them is a 4-hour custodian in the evening. A few highlights from our SEP program. I'm going to ask you to look down at Tenet 4. For the academic focus, we are looking at the NWA fall data to help us. We're looking also at the student assessments using Wonders and Envisions. For our PBIS focus, this month and next month, we are focusing on self-awareness. We have an assembly every month in which our students are educating the other students on self-awareness. And now that all the testing, the NWA testing has been completed, one of the things we are focusing on, and actually it's our teachers, it's intervisitations amongst themselves. They're gonna begin mostly for STEM and for assistance with those hot questions. During our walkthroughs, Mrs. Harrell and I noticed that those are some of the things that we wanna suggest to them, and they are very open to suggestions, so that's one of the things that they recommended, that they are gonna look at. Some teachers have also agreed to be videotaped in order to self-assess themselves, and this is gonna assist us with their growth and their development. So, we've had quite a few celebrations, which I'm gonna focus on a little bit more than the other things, only because it's very important, that correlation between the success of our students and the celebrations. We had great parental and community organizations help us in all of our events. We had our Family Fun Day, our open house, which was also Meet the Teacher Night, our Fatherhood Initiative, a literacy celebration, Albany PD, and our Equine Friend, which you will meet soon, a digital footprint, and SUNY interns for student teaching. Some of our upcoming events, our multicultural potluck dinner is next Thursday, the 27th, and we are going to combine this to strengthen our families and support parents and educate them on how to deal with children and challenges. And I want to add that for every event that we are having, we are adding an educational component to that, not only for the students, but also for the parents, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a minute. We're also having our Harvest Feast in November. There it came. So these are just a few snapshots from our Family Fun Field Day. We had a really, really, really nice turnout. We had a total of 376 participants. And if you look at the lower left-hand corner, those are our friends from the firehouse that is right around the corner. And this was the very first time that they have ever participated in any of our events. So it was great to have them here. They were in charge of the barbecuing, just in case. They did have a fire extinguisher as well. And we were so thankful that they came that some of our students went and brought them a card and went to visit them. And that's our kindergarten students and a first grade class that went over right around the corner. For our Dad's Breakfast and Fatherhood Initiative, we took advantage of that opportunity, and we gave out surveys once again to try and find out what is the interest of our community, our parents. We also were very, very fortunate to be able to invite, and he accepted Mr. Lionel Harris, our very own homeschool coordinator and certified life coach and motivational speaker. As you can see him up there, he was amazing. We had a really nice turnout for the Fatherhood Initiative. We had 54 fathers come and join us. And so here, one of the things that we are still celebrating is literacy. So we invited Commissioner Jonathan Jones from the Department of Recreation, and he came and he read 6 books to our students. It was only supposed to be 2 books, but they were really into it. So he was such a trooper, he ended up staying. He also has a ring from when he played football that he passed around, and so the kids were really, really excited about that. We're very grateful, and he is going to be coming back as well, so. And here, this is Albany PD. They were just here this past week, and our equine friend, Joe, they came and met with our students to teach them about horses, equine science, and for some of our babies, they had never touched a horse, and they did do that. They taught them about the safety in the community with the horses, some of the advantages of having mounted police and some of the disadvantages of having mounted police, and they were absolutely amazing. And one last thing that I am very excited to tell you about that is still in the works, SUNY Albany has looked to us to use us, our building, as a lecture hall and as lab space to work with our students. So we are working on this for our Saturday school. We're going to come up with a better name for our Saturday school, and we're hoping that we can get them in here to work with our students as well. And during Saturday school, we're planning on having a lot of educational programs for our parents, starting with CPR, because that was one of the biggest things that they wanted, according to our surveys, and they also wanted help with behaviors and their own children. So we're going to be tackling that, which you'll probably hear more about. So that's Arbor Hill. I also gave you all a copy of our Arbor Hill newsletter. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. That concludes the superintendent's report.
We're on to public comment now. The Albany Board of Education welcomes district residents, parents, students, and other people to our meeting. Community involvement at board meetings is encouraged so that we can better understand your views. By law, individual student information and particular personnel issues cannot be discussed in public. We encourage you to share specific student or staff concerns with the superintendent or other appropriate staff. Please note that the board generally does not respond to public comment. If you need a response, please consider contacting us via email, phone, or postal mail. When recognized by me, please state your name and city of residence. Statements are restricted to a maximum of 3 minutes, and speakers will be notified by me when their time has expired. Franchette I apologize. Franchette it looks like consultant, but I don't think that's what it is. Thank you, and I apologize for mispronouncing it clearly. You are welcome to sit at the table and be comfortable, or stand. It is wherever you're most comfortable. Just flip the switch on the mic towards you. Just pull it towards you. There's a switch just right at the top, close to the silver part on the top.
I think it is.
Now it's on. Great. Thank you.
Yeah, it's good. Okay. So, honorable Albany City School Board members, on this day, October 19, 2017, I come before this board to make a formal request. It is actually a second request. It is for...
Excuse me, I won't take off your time for this. Could you please state your name and your city of residence? I'd really appreciate that.
Absolutely. Franchette Consolant, City of Albany resident. So it's actually a second request. It is for a copy of the air quality test that was performed and the results that were obtained that would have coincided with our approved reentry into our school building, Arbor Hill Elementary School, on or about August 28th, 2017. This request for the air quality test performed and results obtained that would have coincided with that reentry date was first made by CSDA, City School District of Albany, email on September 7th to my building administrator. The email read as follows. This email is my formal request for a copy of the air quality test performed and results obtained that would have coincided with our approved reentry into our school building. Today, as I worked, I experienced breathing foul-smelling, particle-dense air. At the time of this writing, my chest feels heavy and my lungs unclear. My tongue is burning as well. Thank you. As of this day, there has been no formal or even informal City School District of Albany response to my September 7, 2017 request. With regard to air quality within public buildings, the EPA, OSHA, and the Public Employee Safety and Health Act recognize that inside air in buildings within industrialized cities is in some instances more polluted than the outdoor air, and as such should be of significant concern because research shows that people spend an overwhelming majority of their time indoors and exposed to indoor air pollution that may pose health risks. I ask that the City School Board and its vision adopted 8/3/2006, which recognizes itself as a conduit for public access to the city's school district, formally and in writing respond to my request for the air quality test performed and results obtained that would have coincided with our reentry. A written copy of this statement and the 9/7/2017 email formally making this request is being submitted to this board for convenient review.
Thank you very much. Appreciate
you.
it. Thank you. Jeff Caulfield.
Hello, everyone. I'm new at this. Jeff Caulfield, City of Albany, been a homeowner since '81. All three of my kids went through the system. School 19, as I still call it, Hackett and Albany High. All three of my children agree that the diversity offered in going through a city school system has benefited them greatly, and my daughter, in fact, spent 2 years teaching in this very building, which I must say is a magnificent building. I am a one-issue person. Oh, since they're all grown up, it doesn't mean that I still don't care about the system. I read your newspaper cover to cover when it comes out. I've always been a one-issue person, and that's taxes. I don't know how much you folks are involved in that, but your budget issue did say that there was no increase in the tax levy. That was true. But as I came to find out, there was a shift from non-homestead to homestead. And while it kept the levy the same, it put more burden on the homeowner. Now, for me, I mean, between the school tax and the library tax, it amounted to 81 cents. That's not a lot until you multiply it times your assessment. And for me, that was another $200 on top of the $4,500 I was already paying, and I don't have a really big house. So my concern is that this shift is going to continue, that more is going to be shifted away from non-homestead to the homestead, and more burden is going to be put on the homeowners. On a personal note, I'm in the private sector, so I don't have a big pension waiting for me. And about the only thing that's going to keep me from retiring is a heavy tax burden in the city. I know Pat Fahey personally, and unfortunately, the only response I've gotten regarding more help from the state is like, there's nothing we can do. I've tried. I can't buy that, and I think more pressure should be put on our public officials to bring more money from the state into this school district. We are the capital. And again, I fear that this shift from non-homestead to homestead and putting the burden on the homeowners of this city is just not fair. So I just wanted to say my piece. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Lokesha Marshall.
Hello, how are you? I'm Keisha Marshall, Albany City, and I'm here as a parent of a student that goes to Arbor Hill Elementary. And about the second week of school, you guys sent home a letter saying that Arbor Hill was a failing school. You know, you had your passing schools, and certain students had an option to be accepted to one of the passing schools. But my daughter's been here since she's been in pre-K, and the issue I've always had is classroom sizes, ratios, and support for the teachers. But I was just told by Ms. Harrell on Tuesday that they are increasing and making a third, second grade class. So thank you guys for that, because when you look at the overall makeup of the classrooms, you have your typical pairs, you have your behavior students, and then you have your special needs. So I feel when the teacher, she has to make a choice between ignoring the behavior or continuing on with the lesson with the children. But by her ignoring the behavior, the children are not paying attention to the lesson that the teacher is giving because of the behavior of the child. So by Arbor Hill being one of the failing schools that was on the list because of test scores and stuff, what can the board do for next year's school year to give more support to the classrooms? I feel the teachers here do an amazing job. My daughter's enjoyed everything since pre-K. If it's up to her, she's graduating in 5th grade and going up to the middle school. She's not going to another school. But I just think they do so much, and with the environment, the group of children we have here, not everybody has a Keisha as a mom. So not everybody's got the time to go home and do the homework and come to the meetings and see what's going on in the classroom. So what support can we give for the teachers of the lower grades? Because when I was in pre-K, there was a teacher aide in there, but then when I went to kindergarten, there was like 25 kids, and out of the 25, 15 of them had issues by having an early childhood background. I'm like, where's this IEP for that child? So I just think Arbor Hill is doing so much, as you can see by the presentation, but as a parent, like, I appreciate my daughter being here and I love her being here. But when you hear we're a failing school and this and that, I'm like, well, my daughter is amazing, the students in her classroom, but I don't want the teachers to get burnt out. I don't want the teachers to leave, because my daughter always picks her teacher where she tells me she's going for her next year before the school year is even over. So next year for the budget, the board, just think about supporting the lower grades, getting that TA that can float between the 3 classrooms to give a little bit of assistance, because just because the children don't have an IEP doesn't mean they don't have behaviors that affect the whole classroom and take away from the teacher teaching the students. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Marshall. We're now on to routine consent. Can I get a motion to accept routine consent? Ms. Wilson, seconded by Ms. Savage. Any set-asides? Seeing none, all those in favor of routine consent? That is unanimous. Mrs. Adams, I think we have a couple you might want to recognize in the supervisory capacity and above.
Madam President, members of the board, I am going to ask that Ms. Karen Bechtel please come to the microphone and do these introductions.
Good evening. I'm very happy to report that we filled both the STEM supervisor positions. So I'd like to introduce you to Mrs. Sarah McGraw first for our elementary STEM position. Sarah is a 24-year veteran of our district. Thanks, Sarah. I'd also like to introduce to you Mr. Frank Del Signor. He will be our secondary STEM supervisor and comes to us from Schenectady, strong math high school person, and we are very excited to have him on board.
Thank you so much, Ms. Bechtel, and thank you, Mrs. Adams, and welcome. We are now on to policy, and I turn the mic over to Vice President Savage.
So for those of you who joined us 2 weeks ago, we had an initial discussion on these three policies. Always with policies, we discuss them at one meeting and then consider them for vote at the next meeting so that members of the public are free to comment in between. So there are three policies that we discussed last time. Two of them have accompanying regulations that will be placed on board docs as our ever-increasing transparency of our district. First one is 6700 purchasing. There's no changes to the behavior of the district as a result of these changes to the policy. These are just incorporating some purchasing approaches we had already approved by resolution in the past. 2150 board vacancy. This is a change as a result of our new election date. And then finally 1120 school district records and related regulation. This is a minor change clarifying who is responsible for conveying the records retention policy, which of course falls ultimately to the superintendent. And then also a change in the way that we are clarifying the real costs to the district in responding to requests for information. Even if something is electronic, it still requires us to physically print out that document in order to redact it, and we need to charge accordingly for that. Those are the changes before us, and I'm certainly open to any further discussion based on what we talked about last time.
So, Board, is there any discussion on the policies before us for action? May I get a motion to adopt the three policies? Ms. Wilson, and seconded by Ms. Smith. All those in favor? And that is unanimous. Thank you so much, Ms. Savage, and the rest of the policy committee for the work you continue to do. We are now up to adoption of the Albany High new course offerings that were on for discussion last week. And I think there was a clarifying thing, that had occurred last week, which was that there were not several classes that had been up for review but had not made them through. There actually had only been one, and as it was explained, that was not part of a pathway. And so since it was a singleton, it's the word that I'm just coining for that, but it's used, I know, for other things, but since it was really a standalone, it was actually not brought forth to the board. So is everybody familiar with what we were discussing last week in terms of the adoption? Okay. So is there any other discussion? It looks like the answer is none. Seeing none, can I get a motion to adopt the new course offerings at Albany High School? Ms. Roach, seconded by Ms. Smith. All those in favor? And that again is unanimous. We are now up to a discussion of one of our wonderful district programs that came to us and that has worked on. Hi, Liz Hitt. Thank you for coming. And we're now up to the Feed and Read program. And for those of you who knew it under the prior name, it was our backpack program that was started quite a number of years ago. And it is remiss to not, when mentioning that, to thank again Amy Savoy, a parent of children in our district, who back then with Violetta DeRosa brought this to the district and had done tremendous legwork in getting this idea out and rolling. So thank you and welcome to Ms. Hitt, and thank you so much, Lori McKenna, for presenting tonight.
So I am going to immediately turn it over to Liz, but I do want to publicly thank Liz for all the work and efforts that have gone into the program for our students.
Thanks, Lori, and thanks for having us here this evening. We'll keep this short because we know that you've got a lot on your plate this evening. But before we get into the PowerPoint, I don't want to forget to invite you to a packing session. We do this on Wednesdays and Thursdays, but anytime during the academic year, we'd love for you as a team to come out and help us with the backpacks. I think you'll find it a very rewarding experience.
Liz, sorry, what are the hours on Wednesday and Thursday for that?
I'll make sure you have that information.
okay.
So I'll make sure that gets emailed out to you. Thank you. So just a little bit of a history. We came to you last year and gave you a presentation about this program, but this program started with 14 backpacks, February of 2014. Last year, we began the year with 109 backpacks. We ended the year at 457. We started the year in 4 schools. We ended the year in 15 schools. So that year, last year, was a year of tremendous growth. So this year, we upped the goal again. We're now at 625. So we're a little bit ahead of schedule. That 625 backpacks, I think what's important to know this year as opposed to last year, not that just the number expanded, but 2 new things were added. Last year, we distributed milk every other week. That's a gallon of milk. It's a small card. It goes in the backpack. The family redeems that at any Stewart's shop, and they'll get a gallon of milk in exchange for that. So that went out every other week last year. This year, it's every week. That did bump the cost up pretty significantly, but we felt it was worth it. If children have milk every other week, they could certainly benefit from having it every week. So we added that on. The other thing is there's a new connection with grassroots givers. And this week, this year, every child will receive an age-appropriate book from grassroots givers with that backpack. So that by the end of the school year, what we're hoping is that in each of these 625 homes, 30 books, that's a good start to your own library. So it's a little bit daunting, and I speak at some level on behalf of grassroots givers, but this is a major endeavor for them. This is 20,000 books over the course of the year that they'll be distributing to schools here within the city. And so we're excited about that new partnership, and we hope to keep that going as the years roll by. I also have to tell you that this wouldn't be possible without CEFCU, CDPHP in the City of Albany. The city, through CDBG, those funds, they're contributing $25,000 to this program. I think some folks here on the board might have had a hand in helping some city councilors realize the importance of that program. Much appreciated, and we'll continue to look for that support. So I think I've actually outpaced all of the slides. Any questions?
Well, I'm going to open it up to questions and probably accolades. So, Ms. Rhodes, do you want to start?
I just wanted to say thank you so much for what you're continuing to do. I participated in a backpack packing day I think it was last year.
Awesome.
Sometime after I joined the board, and it was really amazing to see community members come together. And I think I can speak for my fellow board members in saying this is wonderful, and I personally would like to come back. And cabinet. Oh, well, I won't speak for cabinet, but I think everyone here would love to come down and work on this some more. It's great what you're doing, and I'm thrilled that you're expanding it to meet the needs of more students.
Thank you.
Ms. Lang.
Awesome, of course. I was wondering how many backpacks do you have to redeem with children not bringing them back, or a percentage of people not doing their milk, or kind of what the numbers are there?
So what we send to the schools, we actually send the food in grocery bags. The backpacks are kept at the schools. This school here, of course, one of the anchor schools in the program. The backpacks are then given to the students sometime on Friday afternoon. Each school decides that for themselves. We're not educators, so all of that is decided at the school, whatever works best for them. The cards are packed in the bags by us, but the books are kept here, so the books are then added to it here at the school, at every school. Any other questions?
Dr. Chatur?
No question, but it's amazing. It's amazing to see the growth, and I wish you all the success, and let us know how we can help.
So by coming to PAC, I think you'll get a chance to experience the program. The last thing I would say is this: when we first got involved with this program, a lot of people thought it stretched outside of our mission to end homelessness, but we came to this thinking that if we're going to end homelessness in a permanent way for the long term, we have to be invested in keeping children in school. And I think part of that means making sure that they have what they need to be successful in school. There are 3 goals with this program. We hope to increase attendance, increase literacy, and reduce the amount of classroom incidents that are negative. So what we're hoping is that less children are hangry.
Have you had a chance to talk to people in the student unions in the universities and colleges nearby? Because more hands make light work, right?
We actually have almost enough hands. Most students don't have funding to support the program. No pressure.
Every little bit.
But yes, we're always doing outreach to groups to come and pack. What this program desperately needs in order to sustain itself and possibly grow. It's $299 per backpack per year, which I think is a really pretty good deal. So $300 per year takes care of the whole situation. That's what's most needed.
Ms. Wilson.
Also, I want to say kudos to your program. I like the name Feed and Read. It goes with one of my favorite sayings, which readers are leaders. So when I see Feed and Read, I see Read and Lead. Also, in terms of the supplemental food, we understand that nationwide, in America at least, it's understood that maybe 1 in 4 children face food insecurity. So I think that's a very important aspect. But my question also, or not question, but also comment, is that in terms of literacy, I was just at NISPA, and a statistic or a statement was made that actually literacy is one of our greatest public health crises in America. So I think that supporting that is very important as well.
I agree. Thank you.
Ms. Smith.
Again, I echo my colleagues. This is just a wonderful program. I wondered if you could, though, take a minute, just some data about the attendance and the engagement of students. Just share that with us if you have some. Oh, sorry, Lori.
So we did work on a report, end of the year report for this program, and it's too early to report out on, because we were just establishing baseline data during the 16-17 school year. So at the end of this year, we will use the same 3 indicators: attendance, behavior, and academic achievement, to determine the impact of the program on those 3 areas and goals that Liz mentioned. So stay tuned. We're happy to share baseline data with you. If you would like to see it, we do have that report.
Ms. Savage. We're ahead of.
No, I would love to see something. And it's just about, I know the year to year, but just wondered, like, from month to month or something like, especially attendance and what you're seeing there. That's all. It's good. I hear that.
Ms. Savage.
So Vicki stole my question, which was, metrics and getting to see that, which I'm looking forward to do. But I appreciate your request for funding. And I was thinking that I don't believe it's gone out over SNN this year as a district-wide incentive or encouragement to individuals to donate. So it seems like something that we could do again, which we did do last year. And I don't believe it's happened this year, unless I misrecall.
No,
You wanted to speak?
I was just going to respond. I can work with Ron on getting something out.
It would be great, not only, me. So in addition to the SNN, the newsletter for the fall has not yet gone out from the district. And I'm going to make a request publicly that if a blurb about the program can go out. Mr. Caulfield came to speak, and he's, I'm sure, one of many who reads our distributions. I can't, because of the podium, see if he's still there, but reads it cover to cover. But there are plenty of people whose children have gone through the district who do not sign up for our SNNs. And if we can put a blurb together and a bunch of happy faces of children and and anything like that, it'd be great if we could put it in the newsletter if it's not already been there, and I think that would help maybe this year. First, Liz, thank you so very much. I had started by mentioning the people way early, but certainly the work that you've done in Grassroots Givers to sustain this program and to take it on is extraordinary, because we know you have a day job. And then the other thing is that, yes, I think it would be great if we could just see the baseline data, so have it. And in terms of the, just sort of the PR around it, when we send out information district-wide for United Way, or the sort of deductions that people can take for like AFE, do we also let them know about this, so that maybe we could do we could do sort of some sort of work in letting APSTA and APSA and APSU know, mainly APSA and APSTA, although many people can join in to adopt one child's backpack. So that was another idea in terms of getting the information out. Also, once we see it in a blurb form if it's in the next district newsletter, then it's something that we as a board have in our hands that we can then take out with us when we are out in the community at different events that are not just at the schools, and share it with people and do a push for that. And then the last thing, the two last questions. One was, I know that at Schenectady, because they managed to get off the ground, even though we had the idea, but they had gotten off the ground a little sooner, and they did, in the TU article, mention that they had seen that there were metrics. Did they measure by the same metrics that we've chosen now that we're going to measure? Yes? Okay. Not that I think that they have the handle on what should be measured. It's just curious, right, to see if we were on that same path. And then the other thing, I think that's it. So thank you so much. Any other questions from people? Ms. Smith?
You asked part of this, and it was about the United Way Fund. So your organization is there, correct?
Yes.
Is the backpack or the Feed and Read, is that a separate thing, or is there a way to?
I wouldn't imagine that's a specific line within the United Way option list.
Okay.
The agency is there.
Yeah. Okay.
So I thought of, did you have another? Oh. So I had one other thing. So I know that it sounds like Stewart's is something that we pay for. And obviously we all know how generous Stewart's is. It funds something that, a lot of things. But I was wondering if we are able to get the program. It's not an independent 501c3, is it? The backpack program?
No.
Or Feed and Read, I'm sorry.
Yeah, just because there are so many 501c3s
Right.
in Albany, it's part of Hattis, it's part of our 501c3.
Is there any way for us to get on the annual December list for Stewart's? In other words, if they're not giving us the milk free, is there
Right.
any way for us as a unit for Feed and Read to get on their annual list? Because everyone who makes it onto their distribution list, they do the annual Christmas campaign or holiday drive, everyone that's on that list, and there are just hundreds if not more, gets something from them. So
Yeah, so
it
we
just-
received $3,000 from Stewart's back in January when they make the distributions. So what Hattis did is we sacrificed asking for anything else in order to ask for the backpack program. So that's what we've done for the past 3 years. So as always, as with every nonprofit, you're making decisions when you make the ask, and what we decided to ask for was support of the backpack program because it's a good fit for them.
And we understand that. So, and that's the old story of robbing Peter to pay Paul, and no matter what metaphor we use, a certain pie, and we're dividing it up like infinitesimally small among all the needs that are here. And just the last question about the finances is, when the idea first came into the city school district, what we were presented with had done projections for what was needed for sustainability. Do we have an update? It's another thing that I think could help the board, to the extent that we as ambassadors from the district can talk to people when we're out in the community, if we have a more recent or we can get an updated sustainability picture, given that we are no longer at the numbers that originally were envisioned back when the two women brought it to us, that may, because right now I have no handle on what it would mean to sustain the program at the current numbers, which are thankfully astronomically larger. They're exponential from where it started. But it would be helpful to have an idea of where we need to go, what we need to have banked with the food bank to be able to do sustainability, at least at the level we are now, let alone growing it. So is that something, I don't need it to be done yesterday, but if maybe it's something we need to do as a district rather than asking Hattis to do that. But I think that, you know, I don't know how we do it, but maybe at the district level, we can somehow crunch numbers. I always think like Kent Baker is like a magician. So just like crunch the numbers, give us an answer. But somehow to have an idea of really what kind of dollars and cents we're talking about so we know who we should be approaching or how much we should be looking at, or is it something can be done through individuals, or do we need some tremendous a substantial backbone going forward?
So at the current level, 625 backpacks per week for 32 weeks. It's $187,000. I can tell you which has been raised. 100% of it was raised this summer by a team. That's a pretty diverse team, but we needed to get this done before the school year started. If the program's going to continue to grow, that's the rate at which it costs. So that expansion rate, that 300 per backpack per student per year, I mean, that's the rate. So if the need is 2,000, it would be that times 300.
Right, but the 187 was for this year, so again, what my understanding is then for next year, that requires another 187 push to get it. In other words, there's not a banked amount of money, seed money that's there growing.
So 625 backpacks, that's $187,000, but that's 625 backpacks per week for 32 weeks, so that's $20,000 in total. But that's $187,000 that has been raised. It was done over the course of this summer. So we're starting again from scratch for next year.
So maybe what we can do is, for the board, in addition to finding out, as you've now told us, and getting the information sort of from a PR standpoint moving forward, and maybe we also could find out who's been tapped so that we are not doing what in a small pool is always going back to the same people again. So if that's possible, again, not adding work to you, but at some point this year, if we can get that information, we can try to fundraise, at least whenever we're out. It's not something that we're saying we're going to take on as a full-time job, but when we're out in the community, we can say to people, here's the numbers, here's what we need, So thank you so much. Anyone?
Thank you.
Now up to summer school, and should we have, it's up to you, Mrs. Adams, if you want everyone at the table, or you want to break it up piece by piece as how the presentations are going to go. Sure. Dr. Wilson-Turner, however you want to announce or bring your people up, and then just introduce them, and we'll get going with each piece.
Our pre-K summer school come up first. Our Director of Early Childhood Education, Melissa Hasties, Bridget Dotson, and Lisa Momberger, our coordinators. You want to grab one more chair? 'Cause I'll sit too.
Good evening, Superintendent Adams and ladies and gentlemen of the board. My name is Lisa Momberger, and I am one of the site coordinators of the Jumpstart Summer Program. I, along with the other site coordinator, Bridget Dotson, will be starting us off on the summer programming review tonight. Jumpstart is a 4-week summer program. It targeted newly enrolled kindergarten students, and it also targeted pre-K students who by the third quarter had shown some progress but would clearly benefit by programming to lessen regression over the summer break. The objective of Jumpstart was twofold: maintain and support academic and social emotional skills, which will help prepare students for successful transition to kindergarten. Students enrolled in the Jumpstart program gained a clear understanding of school rules, routines, expectations, and for newly enrolled students, it helped lessen the anxiety of entering a brand new school on that first day in September. The Jumpstart program served 85 incoming kindergarten students, including 15 new students and 14 beginning collaboration students. Jumpstart was housed at 2 sites, at Albany School of Humanities and at Giffen Elementary School. There was a staff, an on-site coordinator and staffing at each site, and the teaching staff included 3 district teachers and 3 district TAs. It also included 4 teachers and 3 TAs from advanced therapy. And in addition, the Beginnings program also had staffing, a teacher and a TA for every classroom that housed beginning students.
So to take a look at the metrics, this year we continue to keep with the same scope and sequence of the curriculum as we did last year, with a focus on student names to target letter sounds and math concepts through small group and hands-on activities. The students were able to maintain or show progress in all of the areas. We did note this year that through analyzing our June ending data with our pre-assessment data of the beginning of the Jumpstart program, that several of our students did regress in multiple areas this year, which again further demonstrates the positives of having this program. Attendance this year also showed a decrease as compared to last year. We noted that several of our students who had not been in programs previously came down with common illnesses, which resulted in absences just simply because they didn't have the immune system built up yet. We had several students who took vacation, and we also had many students that we did not participate the last week of the program because the kindergarten with the charter schools began that week. So several of our students left to go to the charter school, which is why the number of students assessed is lower than the number of students that entered into our program. We assessed our students the last week of the program, and if they weren't there, we weren't able to assess them. Progress reports were completed for each child. They were sent home with the families, and then they were also sent on to the child's home school so that they could be passed along to the child's kindergarten teacher. So our proposed next steps, we actually have 2 options, and we would like your input on the 2 options. The first option is having 1 site with 4 classrooms to maximize an enrollment of 60 students. This is being considered as we look at the enrollment numbers in Jumpstart, the number of new students participating, and the numbers of pre-K students that are transitioning into kindergarten versus the numbers of students that are remaining in Albany kindergarten classrooms. Option 2, our 4-year-old pre-K program serves, our current 4-year-old pre-K program is serving a large population of our pre-K students. We feel like it's capturing a large group of kids, and we would like to continue to invite our current pre-K students that are demonstrating limited growth and treat it as a true summer school model to help maintain and prevent that regression that we noted so significantly this year on our June assessment to the start of the Jumpstart program. We also noticed this year that having our flyer posted at central registration during the kindergarten registration really helped to inform parents. We had a lot of phone calls from parents looking to participate in the program. And we also feel that the additional 3-week time period of the kindergarten registration will help with us to be able to recruit some of the new students who have not been in programs previously. And that's all we have.
Thank you all. Ms. Wilson? Nothing. Dr. Chatur?
So I had a question. I mean, you present option 1 and option 2.
Yes.
And option 2 is 2 sites. And last year, you had both your sites were Ash and Giffen, which is on the same side of town. Would it help? Was there logic to that? Or
Last
like
year,
just-
our sites were Arbor Hill and Giffen. Because
Arbor Hill,
Arbor Hill was under construction this summer, we moved the location to Ash this year instead. And it did not impact the attendance in a way that one may think. It stayed pretty consistent. We did increase our students. Last year we had 67 students participate, and this year we had 85.
So if it moved back to Arbor Hill this
Yes,
coming
we would
year,
be coming back to Arbor Hill.
do you think you would save on transportation costs? Because now you don't have to take a lot of kids across town, and you could use that money into education.
I believe that the transportation would decrease. Last summer program, the transportation that was used were the smaller size buses. This year, they used the larger buses, so it was supposed to be door-to-door service, and in some of the cases, it ended up being corner pickup because the larger buses could not fit down the street. So I don't know if that impacted gas costs.
Okay, great. Thank you.
So I'm just going to, before everybody else comments, ask you, you asked us to get input on option 1 or 2. Ms. Hasty, would you like us, as we go around, to address that in some way? You would? Okay, before doing that, then I'm going to ask you all, given that they're listed as 2 options, I'm sensing that you're really option 2, are you not? It's just option 1 is a cheaper version in case we're looking to, okay, just wanted to verify that. So, but thank you for presenting it that way, but I was thinking you probably wanted option 2. So Ms. Wilson, do you have a comment you'd like to make about option 1 or option 2? No? Okay. Dr. Chatur, before I leave you? No? Okay. Ms. Lang?
Where teachers were asked to give 2 or 3 students, is that where the majority of the students came from? I mean, I know they were the pre-K versus the kids in FED, but did the majority of those 1, 2, and 3 kids attend the schools?
Yes.
We're way ahead of schedule. You want to just get out your second question now? Now it's okay. Yeah, you know, it's the purview of the president to be arbiter.
I'm gone.
Ms. Roach?
Thanks for clarifying that. I too had questions about model option 1 versus option 2, and I had sort of a 2-part question about the demographics. And the first one was, would option 1 just then be pulling students that hadn't had any pre-K, and then option 2 would continue students with no formal pre-K plus kids who had completed our pre-K and needed extra help?
Yeah, go ahead.
It was unclear from the
So the first year that we did the Jumpstart program, we were emphasizing and focusing primarily on the new student entrants. And as our pre-kindergarten program for 4-year-olds has increased the number of students that we serve, we feel like we're hitting a large majority of the population of 4-year-old students in the community that are transitioning into kindergarten. And so by looking at those numbers, last year with our enrollment, the number size that it was, and expanding to 2 sites, we looked at the option of having students that have already been in program that could benefit from the summer piece to continue having them attend as well. So that's why we're looking at the option 2. The option 1 would be, again, we'd have to then look at focusing on with the 3 weeks of additional kindergarten registration time that allows us to locate more students and screen them. Would that affect the numbers? Would that lessen the number of students that are currently in our pre-K program that we could access? As opposed to if we continued going to 2 sites, we could look at them at an earlier time and reach out to the parents at an earlier time, as opposed to using them as a second option to fill the program. Does that make sense?
I understand. So right now, the students that are experiencing difficulty in pre-K are only evaluated for the program if there are extra spots available.
That was the first year. So then last year we tried to balance both.
And this year you tried to balance both.
Yeah.
Could you give us some sort of breakdown on how many of those, I think you said 85 students were fresh new students versus pre-K students? I didn't
15.
see that in the material.
It was.
And I just might have missed it here. Oh, yes, sorry, I see that, I see this now.
Registrants.
Okay.
And that, we screened more than that. We screened 37 students, but the students that we, that when we screened them, we were looking at the ones that really needed the extra support in transitioning into the program.
Okay. Can I go with one question? The other question I have is, would it make sense next year to coordinate the timing of this with the charter school calendar if students are leaving to go to charter school? Not that we're looking to have students leave for charter school, but if they do, maybe it makes sense to kind of schedule around that.
Yeah, I think it was 12 students that left from the program that last week of school. And when we were offering the program to all of the pre-kindergarten students, we're offering it to not just the ones that are in our elementary schools, we're offering it to the ones that are in the offsite locations too. So we have to be a more cognizant effort to, make sure that they're registering with the district and that we know them if we're hitting that population. But really, we're looking at targeting any 4-year-olds to have them have that ability to be ready for kindergarten when they enter. So.
Okay, I think what I was asking was, does it make sense to change the calendar, given that we know that some of these students will be starting kindergarten a week before this program is over?
We could look at that calendar, but the reason why we do the program when we do is so that we're ending the program closer to the start of school, so that they're not regressing by the time they're going back to school. So that actually ends, so we would have to look at the calendars and see how we could modify that to make that work for both situations.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Smith.
Oh, thank you. So option one was really not your preference, right? And we would save a little bit of money. I don't know how much your savings was projected to be, but we'd also be serving fewer students. So could you tell me, was there just how much savings?
Well, we don't know. I mean, it would probably be close to, if it's half the program.
Oh, I see. Okay, if you do it that way.
60, it's 120.
And you're in one
It would
site.
be the transportation piece, but we would have 120 students down to 60 students, but then they would be coming to one site from all over the city versus being funneled into two different locations.
So let's just say option one isn't an option, right?
That would be lovely.
We're looking at two.
Yes.
Okay, that's what I wanted to leave it. Okay, good.
Ms. Savage.
I'm curious about the historical trends about performance of students, and I realize it's complicated because you've changed the age profile and the demographic profile of the students, but I'm wondering if you have a sense of whether the performance that you saw this year is pretty consistent with what you saw in the past, or is there, are we getting better at serving these children, or is it about flat?
Looking at the data from last year compared to this year, the number of students who maintained or increased, definitely it was a significant growth from last year, but it was that regression that we did note. So if there hadn't been the regression between that 4 to 5 week period between the assessment in June and the initial summer school assessment, I think that it would be significantly lower if they weren't able, if they didn't start it and have to go back down and come back up and go back down and come back up.
And then I had another cost question. I'm not sure I understand why a program that served 85 kids this summer, projecting 120 next summer, no budget increase. I like it. That seems like a good thing, a very efficient way to serve students. But if we only served 85 this year, and in option 2 we're talking about 120, how do we do that for the same money?
The only thing that would be adjusting would be the transportation, the staffing. We save a tremendous amount of money in staffing because we are using our collaboration with Advanced Therapy. We did budget for the 120 students. It's the transportation piece that got us this year. It was it was, and last year as well, it was almost double. So the previous year, last year we asked for transportation to be doubled because it was doubled in our expenditures. And then again, this year, we were given a number, we gave the number to transportation, and then it ended up being significantly higher.
So the reason that we served 85 students for the same amount that we'd serve 120 is that we really were budgeting for serving 120, but we didn't get 120, even though we could have served 120. So there was essentially 35 seats that we could have filled last summer, but we're not successful in filling.
Yes. And we're only paying the district teachers and TAs. We do not pay for the advanced therapy staff.
So just to piggyback on that about the expenses, in the numbers, do we know why we didn't get the additional 35 students approximately that you were banking on getting 85 to 120? What the reasoning was?
Because we're still trying to hold off a certain number of students that are incoming kindergarten students, so we're not looking at filling it with the current pre-K students. We held off a certain number of the students for incoming new registrants, but because the window didn't open until almost Memorial Day, and then we have to stop screening by a certain time in order to get the transportation in and all of that, we don't have a large window. So we're thinking that by increasing the window, for kindergarten registration as it starts earlier in May this year, that we'll be able to capture more new entrants.
So since you had wanted to get a feel on option 1 or 2, but of course we're not yet in budget season, obviously having a flat budget line on something that we already allocated last year, for me, is something that I can support. I don't know that there's an impetus yet for having to slash things and cut back on them. So that's the first thing. The second is that as we learned from the illustrious Dr. Wilson Turner, that one of the things about summer school, and I assume that applies to pre-K and to our 3 and 4-year-olds as well, is that even if there's not an increase in aptitude, in scholastics, and whatever you're measuring, because I know it's very different for little learners, that certainly the lack of loss, stemming the loss and having them be flat going into the school year is even considered something that's promising. So as you were explaining, the regression moves the floor up a bit, but it sounds like there'd still be an increase, or at least we would not have lost anything. So I think that's good, because as we know, when they're little, any loss is much bigger than the losses that occur the smaller losses occur as the kids get older. So I think that was really it. I just appreciate the presentation. And while not everybody weighed in, this board has supported the work that we've done at the youngest ages, with an understanding that it is much more efficient and both from a cost perspective and also just from the work itself, to actually do the work when the kids are younger than when we have children many years behind at a high school level, where there are so many other dynamics at play in addition to the number of years behind that students are. So, and Ms. Lang.
And I also want to talk about, were there any opportunities for parents to come in, since these are the parents that are coming in to, really understand the school, the books, the reading, how important literacy is? Has that been a component put into this program?
So as part of the My Brother's Keeper Challenge grant, we held summer sessions for our incoming kindergarten families, and all of those flyers went out to the families for those 3 sessions that we had over the summer.
The teachers also sent home weekly newsletters to the families to let them know specifically what their child was working on during the week and how they could support that at home as well.
Dr. Chatur?
Maybe you mentioned and I missed it. What was the predominant contributing factor to spending $9,000 more than the budgeted amount?
The transportation.
We came in under budget and everything else.
Anyone else? Ms. Roach?
So you mentioned that this past year you had capacity for 120, but only enrolled 85. And I'm wondering what you felt were the impediments to getting more students to enroll, and how you plan to address that, because I would really like to support continuing the program and having capacity for 120 students, but I don't want to be paying for capacity for 120 if we only have 85 students, whose parents want to enroll them in it. So what can we do to make sure that that every seat is filled?
I think as we stated before that we are going to be looking at the current pre-K students at an earlier basis and reaching out to their families to try and enroll them, and then with the increase, limiting the number of openings that we earmark for new entrants, because we're looking at the trends and how many students we're actually serving as opposed to how many are coming in as new entrants in that time frame.
So it sounds like we're hearing we think that if we contact these families a couple weeks earlier, they'll be more likely to enroll their children?
We're monitoring data, so we limited the number of students that we invited initially and ensuring that we had spots available for the new registrants. Now we're going to flip that with option 2, and we're going to look more closely at the data and invite more students that are currently in the program and then backfill with the new entrants.
Now I understand. I just didn't understand how all this, I was listening before, but I didn't understand how all those pieces worked together to create that enrollment number. Thank you.
Ms. Abbott.
While we're thinking about how the data might be presented next year, it sounds like we'll have a pretty large population of pre-K students who will be taking the summer program. So we'll have sort of a built-in control of people who were invited but chose not to participate, who will return to kindergarten with us, versus people who were invited and did participate and then went to kindergarten. So we should be able to get some reasonably good data about the efficacy of this program, because we'll have a good control group. And I'm looking forward to seeing that next year.
The last thing I just wanted to say is, not to cause dissension, but I prefer the model that you set time-wise, so that's just 2 different views, but I'm sure you'll present in terms of the issue of charter timing versus getting our kids as close to the school year as possible, because I think that it is important for us to have as small a gap as possible for our kids entering the classroom in our own buildings. So it's not a disrespect to the other schools as much as wanting the focus to be on that, if that's what you determine is a more important factor.
Although it sounds like the real issue is that you did the assessment on the last day, the last week, which was after the last week for the charter school kids. So if you knew they were going to charter, they could be assessed prior, so that everybody would get the advantage, charter and district would get the advantage of summer right up until the beginning of their school year, but we would still get the assessment data.
And that was the monitoring and working with central registration around.
Yeah, I got it.
Thank you so much.
Good evening, Superintendent Adams, members of the board. I'd like to take a moment, introduce myself. My name is Alicia Holt Riley. I served as the coordinator for the elementary summer school program, along with Ms. Dawn Castle, who served as the coordinator for the program at Delaware Community School. A little bit about our program. Our program ran for 5 weeks. The first 4 hours of each day was focused on academics with a heavy influence on ELA and math. Students also spent about 30 minutes working on writing and increasing writing skills over the summer. The afternoon portion was focused on social extracurricular enrichment that was provided by an outside community agency. Our primary goal was to target students that had shown the ability to do well but had low growth throughout the year, and our goal was to prevent them from making the summer slide, which is common with students who don't have any exposure to academic curriculum over the summer. So in total, we serviced 373 students. We had a diverse range of students with various needs and at various abilities. Even though we had a specific target audience, we had several students who registered that benefited from the academic programming. We had 30 classroom teachers, 15 at each site. We also had supports for our ENL population. So we had 3 teachers at one site, 2 teachers at another site. We had security and TAs for students who required that assistance, along with other staff that allowed for the program to run, clerical, nurse staff, so on and so forth. We were able to expend less than our anticipated budget. We were also able to conserve supplies and resources so that we would be able to save on cost and materials for future summer programming.
Good evening. This next slide shows the matrix for the ELA and reading. Our students participated in the Wonders curriculum for K2, and they did a pilot program with Flex, which was also from McGraw-Hill. The students in K2 also participated in the iRead program. As you see from this graph, we are lacking the data on grades 3, 4, 5 because there was a glitch with the Flex program to get that data. But as you can see, our students did increase in K1-2 with the iRead program, as well as the focus that we had on foundational skills. We had explicit instruction happening with that during the summer, and we did see great growth with that. The matrix is based on basically if you were playing a video game, how you would go up in levels rather than you would go up in complete grade levels. So the students did increase in those. As Felicia was mentioning, many of the things in, we got into writing already? Many of the things in reading were as a result of attendance, ESL, and the varying length of academic achievement with the students that came to summer school. For writing, the teachers were given a 4-week calendar with explicit mini lessons for each day. There was a narrative rubric for K2 and one for 3-5. It was a 4-point rubric. Our students did see growth. We see some particular growth in grade levels on which we gave to the teachers that might have been experienced teachers college writing teachers. In kindergarten, the teachers did comment that the students made a lot of growth in conventions, spacing between letters, making capital letters, correct formation of letters, and that was not indicative on the rubric.
In math, we used a mirrored pre and post test in order to determine growth that students made. So we see across the board that many students showed growth and development in targeted math skills. You'll notice that there are some significant areas of growth, particularly in kindergarten and 4th grade, and those were classrooms where teachers had unique skills and training that allowed them to deliver the math instruction at a slightly more effective level. But across the board, students were, at both buildings, made significant gains. Students used the Math Navigator program, which included various modalities to teach the targeted skills. For both math and ELA, we tried to front-load skills so that when students went back to school in September, they were able to be familiar with the topics that they would need for success early on.
So for proposed next steps, we had a couple of factors that came into play, one of which is 10 of our schools will now be able to offer their own summer programming to serve over 40 students each in each of those schools due to after-school grant funding that extends through the summer. So like we have 21st Century at Arbor Hill, Giffen, Sheridan Preparatory Academy, Schuyler Achievement, and Toast. With the after-school program grant, we are now being able to expand to all of our schools except for North Albany and Eagle Point, which are schools in good standing. And as a component of that grant, those schools will be able to offer summer programming. So that significantly impacts the population of students who will be available for summer school, which is why a new option was proposed. We considered taking summer school off the table altogether, but that would leave 2 of our elementary schools without any summer program offerings because they don't have that after-school program grant opportunity. So what is proposed is actually still offering 1 program site for half the number of students. And that would result, ultimately in a reduction of staff and some adjustments to the structure. Initially, we felt that based on the ENL population that we received, we could reduce the number of ENL teachers and even trade add a social worker to support some of the student behavior and social emotional needs that we saw. However, what we reflected on was our afternoon enrichment component of our summer school program and the need to strengthen that in order to actually deliver the vision that we have for what that is supposed to look like, and recognizing the capacity and willingness of our community partner to grow in that area. We think the best way to do that is to partner with our own City School District of Albany teachers to increase the caliber of program offerings for the afternoon component, which can be done in 2 different configurations. And I propose both an 8-teacher configuration and 15-teacher configuration, which both have about the same budget impact. So regardless of which option we were to choose, we would be reducing the budget because we are reducing the program site. And if we are able to add the City School District of Albany teachers, it's not quite, cutting the program in half. We are increasing some costs there, but we would reduce from $452,000 to about $273,000 to offer a full-day program to approximately 225 students in 1 program site. Reflecting on some of the challenges of our first year offering a full-day summer school program, one of the challenges is not all families want full day for their child during the summer, and we committed to only offering those seats to full day, and that limited the opportunity for some of our families, and we don't want that to be a hurdle this year. So we want to figure out a way to offer a half-day option that still allows us to be smart about how we budget. Student transportation seems to be, for 2 years in a row, looking at this summer program, a challenge for our families and understanding what transportation is available during the summer. Some of the drop-off points are inconvenient and not worth it, but they don't realize that until after they signed up for transportation, which causes a great deal of confusion when we open summer school. So we want to be as clear about parent transportation drop-off as possible when we endeavor on this for the next time. And one of the things that Dawn, having done this program in its many iterations over time, noticed was missing is we sent a comprehensive data report back to the child's teacher at the end of summer school, but not to the parent. And she noted right away, she's like, this is an important component that we need to be able to provide to our families, is how their student fared in summer school, even though it's not, parents are looking for, did my kid pass? And that's not what it's about. It's about what growth did your child exhibit over the course of summer school, and so we're looking to develop that as well.
Yes. No.
Ms. Roach.
Hi, thank you very much. I appreciate your program and I appreciate your presentation. I just had a question regarding the performance metrics, and I was a little unclear as to what the control group was, because you say just district, and I wondered whether that was end of the year, like June numbers for students who did not go to summer school, or fall numbers for students who didn't go to summer school. Can you explain that a little more, please?
No, it's just the average between the 2 buildings.
Oh, okay, so the writing for the district is the average between the New Scotland and the Delaware. Oh, okay, thank you.
Ms. Lang.
What was the difference? Why was Delaware, at most of the slides, much higher than New Scotland? Was that because the growth started at a different place, or what was coming into that? There was a couple of them that were just drastically different from the slides.
Can we go, which slides in particular?
They're all unique, so if we want to do writing first.
Right. If we, well, this one.
Math, it looks like DCS was all orange, was much higher than the blue.
Alicia had alluded to the fact that the 2 of the teachers in those grades at DCS were quite skilled in math.
So not all our teachers are quite.
Well, no,
quite
I mean,
skilled
that
in
was
math.
their passion, and they'd had additional training in math as well. Some of the other things that we think about, though, are the facts that we have ESL's population as well, and the academic levels of the children. Our groupings were homogeneous.
So I guess that's what I'm asking. So if there were ENL or the difference, what were those numbers? What was the difference between those two schools?
For ENL, I believe we had, let me look back at my notes.
So while Dawn looks at the numbers, there were specific classes at specific sites that had higher concentrations of students. So for example, I know at New Scotland, we had a very high concentration of SPED students in kindergarten. And I know that there were some classrooms at DCS that had higher concentrations of ENL students at different grade levels. So that would also affect some of the results.
The ENL at Delaware was 35 students, and we had classes at each level that had ENL students, and the total SPED was 47, and a lot of those students were at New Scotland in the kindergarten program.
Dr. Chator? No?
Jen asked the question I was going to ask.
Ms. Wilson?
Sorry, one question I had concerned the half-day proposal. I understand that there's many City of Albany camps that are half-day, so is your intent to maybe complement that perhaps with the,
I just know I spoke to many unhappy parents throughout the summer, and I take all of that very seriously and into consideration into the next year of programming, that they just didn't want their kid tied up all day. They had other plans for them. They had other enrichment opportunities they wanted to be able to do for their kids, but still felt their children needed an academic component to help them maintain throughout the summer. So we want to be able to honor the needs of all of our families. We made the assumption everybody wants their kid gone, all day long for 5 weeks, for 5 weeks during the summer, and that wasn't accurate. But we hadn't budgeted that way, and so we couldn't afford to give up those seats. So we want to be smarter about how we plan to be able to support those needs.
Absolutely.
Ms. Smith?
I think Ellen was actually going where I wanted to go, but for the older students, let's say grades 3, 5, and up, those students who would be taking the state assessments, is there any predictability associated with? Okay.
So I'll remind you that summer school is very narrowly focused, and so part of the reason we see growth is because we're only focusing on a certain number of skills because it's 5 weeks. It's like going to school and doing one chapter or one unit. And so we know at the beginning you started here when we taught you about this, and at the end you should be approximately here. So I wouldn't say there's predictability. We're very disappointed that we're missing the reading scores for the 3 through 5 because, for two reasons. If you remember last year, the pre and post assessment we used for our upper grade students were not to get jargony, mirrored assessments. And so as a result, we got drastically different results from our pre and our post that actually showed regression. And I think you guys remembered that dip on the scale. And the program that we used in summer school this year for reading showed incredible promise. And children were showing incredible growth in actual reading levels that we believe would have demonstrated a positive impact that we would really want to see if it has any impact on how students fare in the fall. So we are still working with the company to pull individual class teacher records on those students, but because of the glitch, there was no last week of interacting with that program or assessment, so we don't have a full picture of its impact, but they are trying to retrieve the data that we had. So I say all that to say, even in math, even in writing, like writing, they're doing one unit of study. So they're looking to get better at one particular area. So there's really no way to take our summer school data and project it even to our fall. And I begged Bill and Cabinet to move summer school to the same weeks as pre-K, and Bill looked at me like I had 8 heads, because how are we going to get schools ready if I've got 12 buildings running summer school all day long? It impacts our ability to do that. And so yes, even though we know if we could close that window closer to the start of school, we would have better results, there are other things in our system that have impact. Our buildings have to be ready for the start of school. I didn't mean to throw you under the bus, Bill, but it's the reality of our situation, and we have to have those realistic conversations, in our setting.
Ms. Savage?
I think I need a refresher on the after-school program grant summer opportunities and what your thinking is about how that's going to run. I seem like I'm missing a piece. Like you talked about how that would impact summer school, but I don't have a vision of what this after-school program grant summer opportunity is going to look like.
So, okay.
I'm sorry.
That's no,
Is
you're
it
not.
okay?
You're
Am I-
not. I'm
am
not
I-
caught
am
off
I
guard.
on
I
point?
just thought you knew. So there is. We did receive after-school grant funding, and we decided to distribute it, like I said, to our focus and priority schools. So all of those schools will have additional after-school program right now that's going to be offered by the Boys and Girls Club, I believe is the partner that was selected. And included in that is summer extension. And so they get an additional 4 or 5 weeks of summer program as a part of that. That is full day, will have some academic component to it, that would basically be in competition with what we offer for summer school. And so when we proposed summer school this year, we talked about the fact that, well, Arbor Hill, those 5 priority schools already have 21st Century all day, and they have the YMCA all day. Why are we still offering them seats? And we thought it was wise to get as many of those students as we possibly could in as many opportunities. But we know we can't compete with trying to find an additional 500 students if 10 of our buildings are already offering programming for 40 students each of their program sites. So I can't explain the after-school grant because that's just not my area that I do, but I know in conversation, because I developed this with Eileen, that we are going to have other options for our students during the summer that would compete with this.
Okay, so I guess that's, at some point, I'd like to get a sense of, have we thought about the academic impact of our students on doing this alternative approach versus what we've been traditionally doing, and which is better for the kids and why? And that's the piece I'm feeling like I'm
So
short
what we've
on.
built into the after-school program piece that we're adding right now is the iRead program that we used in our elementary summer enrichment program. And so students will continue to work in that software, and my understanding is that will continue through the summer. So I'm not saying it's going to be exactly like what we would offer in our academic summer school, but there has to be an academic component to it that will mirror some of those pieces.
Okay, so if I have a kid who's a cusp kid, like we've been trying to address, are we going to still try and draw our cusp kids into the summer school program because that's where we think we're going to get them over the cusp, or are we going to let them pick, or how is that going to
So we had a lot of proposed next steps, and I didn't highlight them all. But one of the things that we have to do better is we have to time the release of the application of each program at the same time, and to be able to target the children that we want for each of the programs that we think are going to be most beneficial. So our target audience would still be our, high growth, low achievement students. However, families are likely to choose a program that is in their home school than to have to travel to a program site. So we will compete for the child that we're actually targeting for our summer school program. However, all of our children will get a summer experience that has an academic component. We prefer that we get the kids that we want for this particular academic component, and we'll do the best we can to work with our buildings to recruit as such.
So this all sounds, first of all, thank you for your presentation. Now, this all sounds counterintuitive. It sounds like we have a grant that is actually not going to do that which for so many years the board has sought to do, which is at least at a minimum in the first half of the day, before the afternoon, and then people choose to do what they want, we have a summer rigorous, but a rigorous academic program. So it sounds like our priority school kids who need that more generally will be getting a less rigorous academic program, we think, and again, we don't know until it happens, than the children in our schools of good standing. Again, albeit there are children in both groups, in schools that don't need it. So that's why I'm having the same kind of, like, my head's kind of hurting, wrapping around what sounds to be, okay, because now my next point is, that would make sense if somebody came to us and said, with a gun to our heads, you will have this programming, you will take this money, you will use it in this way. However, it's clear that we actually sought the grant. We now got the grant, And now it's not going to, now we believe that it may not achieve the ends, or in my words, seems counterintuitive and counterproductive to where we have gone all these years in building up a summer school program that, but for the glitch, you would be sharing with us, actually achieved things that we had wanted to achieve. So,
Can I just,
yeah,
let me
please.
reassure you a little bit. And I don't want to speak for how we came upon this money. I just know that in conversation and trying to be fiscally responsible, I'm not going to offer more seats than necessary. To their credit, the Boys and Girls Club runs a very well-run program that tries to balance and partner with some of our local colleges to provide an academic component. It may not be the 3.5 hours of straight-on academic from our certified City School District of Albany teachers. So yes, we do need to do our best to recruit and get the families that we need to come to the table because even though we're running one program site, we're still going to pull from all 12 schools because 2 schools are not going to fill my program site. But I understand your concern, and I don't know the whole backstory as to how this came to be, but I know that it is, and that's a component of the program.
Okay, so it sounds like what would be really great, since it's only October, is as we prepare for the summer, as you prepare for the summer, as we prepare for the summer, that we maybe hear back from everybody how it's going to, how you are all going to be registering students, capturing the ones that we need, and more important, I mean, I love the Boys and Girls Club, there's no question, and I really do, but their ability to, honestly, if they were able to deliver the instruction that City School District of Albany teachers could deliver, we would have so much money we were rolling in because we wouldn't need teachers who were trained professionally and actually work in the buildings. And by its own presentation, even as we know, all teachers are not alike. So we had star math teachers at one site, which would have led me to suggest that next year, if there is a disparity between good and awesome, not bad and good, let's say, that we actually do some sort of rotation, but you only have one site, so you don't need to do that. But there would need to be, I think, children getting exposure to the awesomeness of some teachers as well as the goodness of others. So if you could maybe just come back to us at some point as you're beginning to create your summer work. And the only last piece I wanted to add is, I usually really appreciate the metrics we're shown, but I found it, with my brain, really not easy to understand them. I personally would prefer, and others may disagree, that's, and I apologize to anybody about that, but I would prefer a baseline at the beginning, or wherever you pull your baseline from, and then one at the end. I'm not so concerned about troughs in the middle. I'm concerned where someone starts and where someone ends, rather than modules and having the district in gray be just an average of the two, because I know you weren't trying to make it complex or not understandable, but the way I normally interpret data, I just really found it was difficult to really appreciate what we're trying to get out of learning about summer school. So for what it's worth, any other questions? Ms. Savage. Ms. Roach.
I just had a quick question also regarding the amount of time that the children, it seemed like a lot of what the children were working on was self-directed computer programs, and I noticed that it said for one of them that the students were online approximately 30 minutes a day, and I wasn't sure if that was just for iRead or whether that was for all the programs. Could you talk about how much time the students were spending doing self-directed computer work as opposed to work with the teacher? Because it looked like the student-teacher ratio was fairly low, so.
They were. So there was 30 minutes that every class could go to the computer lab to work either on Flex or on the iRead program. There was 90 minutes dedicated to ELA, and that had, there was different modes of instruction, whole group, small group, one-on-one. There was 60 minutes of math and 30 minutes of writing every day.
And was the math, again, it sounded like, was the online program for math just assessment, or was that something that the students were working with?
There were certain grades that math was assessed online. Yeah, no, there was math instruction in the classroom primarily. And different grades had different forms of assessments. I just don't remember which grade used the computer assessment versus the paper assessment.
Okay, thanks.
Ms. Lang?
So I have two questions. One is the same question I asked at the other summer, at the middle school. What percentage of kids that were targeted did enter into the program? What percentage of kids that were asked to come did participate in the summer program?
Did like yes.
So, I would say by the time we were done compiling all the applications, which was an adventure in itself, we expected to have more than 450 students between the two sites. So we were probably we were a little nervous, I think, at DCS that we were going to have more students than we expected based on the applications that were returned. But we ended up just 80 shy of our target, because our target was 450 and we're 373. I missed the question.
Yep, those were the ones that apply. So if you had a child and you said, you know, we really think your child should be in summer school, how many of those parents sought out summer school? Like 90%, 80%?
That's a harder question to answer because that recruitment was done at the building level. And so they went through round after round after round of trying to recruit to get to their target number of 45. So I couldn't honestly say to you how many we offered and they didn't accept.
And also, I kind of wanted to know what the process was for getting children into summer school. At what point of the year do they start identifying and having the conversation? Unlike high school, where a lot of the kids pull it together in those last couple months, so they don't need to go to summer school. This isn't necessarily, you don't need that kind of metric. So I guess walk me through how or when does the targeting for
So
additional?
we started discussing summer school with the principals in February and shared the targeted population with them in February, which is still a philosophical mindset adjustment that we're not just sending the lowest performing child to summer school. So that's why we start that conversation early. And the target is that by the third marking period report card, you should begin having the conversation that your child would be a strong candidate for summer school. And to continue to monitor that way. And so we were able to use the January NWA data to show those students who were high growth but low achievement as the students that we wanted to be able to target. So we tried to start earlier this year because one of our big pushes in offering full day was to get our enrollment in academic summer school up, which we did accomplish that to some degree this year. So I would say by the third marking period, the recruitment process had begun. They had a deadline to submit their applications to us in early May, and even in early May, we weren't fully subscribed, and so we pushed the deadline out and allowed them to keep recruiting after that.
Ms. Savage?
Did you say 45 per school?
Yes.
Is there a reason that Giffen gets the same number of slots as Arbor Hill?
Yep, so we discussed this you guys asked this question in the spring, which was a good question, and it's because Arbor Hill, Giffen, Sheridan Preparatory Academy, TOAST, who am I forgetting, and Schuyler Achievement all have two other programs that draw 120 children. So we felt that we were covering them pretty well. However, I did have schools like North Albany, which is a little bit smaller, Montessori, which is a little bit smaller, that struggled to get to their 45 and talked about, I'll give my seats to, another school if that's necessary, but they ended up filling them with students.
And then you mentioned a challenge with the kindergarten rubric, that the rubric didn't properly align with the skills that the children learned, so that you couldn't reflect it, something about letter formation and whatnot. Who wrote the rubric? Why was the rubric so?
Well, it was a rubric for K2, and specific with younger students, we're going to be looking at letter formation, spacing, all of those things, and it wasn't as that specific as in a narrative as it would be. So there'd be more conventions, and that wasn't included. So that's something we just kind of tuck in to think about for next year.
And then my last question is actually for the ladies who I still see are in the back. Did we do a parent report for our Jumpstart kids? Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
If I may, I just really want to say thank you, if she's still here, and she might have already left, to Tara Boziak. She's a teacher at Sheridan Preparatory Academy. She was a huge factor in summer school. She did her internship in our summer school programs and spent all day at one of the 2 program sites for the entire 5 weeks. So I wanted to say thank you to her.
Board committee reports. Board committee reports, anybody? No. Ms. Lang.
Well, I wanted to talk about the government relations meeting that was held and go into a little bit more detail than the great update that Superintendent Adams provided. In having our conversation with the governor's office, we spoke about our E&L, our foundation aid, pre-K funding for the reimbursement rates, STEM being very, very important, and the fourth one, community monies. And I did want to kind of follow up on what the gentleman said about taxes as lobbying. We absolutely are lobbying for our full foundation aid, where we are not getting about $28 million a year. So I do want the public to know that we are absolutely in full force trying to get the money that we know we definitely deserve, including the formula with our E&L student, our high poverty, and the metrics thereof. But I am excited for next steps, and we will be making next steps with the legislature and also the Senate and Assembly Education Committee as well. So we are doing our very best to make sure that we are lobbying, advocating, and working together to get more money so that the tax burden is not our burden, but we're using those monies to do what we need to do, which is educate our children.
Thank you, and I want to both thank Mr. Lesko and Superintendent Adams and anybody who put the work into the packets, but I also want to thank Ms. Lang, because this year she made the appointment so early to get into the governor's office, and the thing that the assistant secretary said to us at that meeting was that basically commending on being there at that point in time, and how sometimes school districts show up after the governor's budget has already been set and presented. And so it is really, we say that, I say this every time, but it is really a testament to having somebody with Ms. Lang's background to steward this committee and to really understand the inner workings of the second floor. And it just was a real testament to hear that compliment again given to the work, and it's just gotten more efficient and better every year. So thank you so much, Ms. Lang. More committee reports? None. Mr. Hogan? None. Okay. All right, board discussion. So I'm sorry. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, so board discussion items. I think this is the part of the meeting where we talk about whether where we've been and what we've learned. And I don't need to go first, but I wanted to.
Please do. You can talk about the.
So I'm just going to say briefly that Ms. Wilson, Dr. Chator, Ms. Lang, and I spent 2 days at the New York State School Board Association annual convention, along with Ms. Adams and Ms. McKenna, and Mr. Lesko, and I think that's everyone. And it was really, once again, an excellent learning experience. Each of us picked up some useful information. We try to split up going to different seminars to avoid redundancy, and I for one, learned some things that were really useful and productive. And also our new superintendent presented with almost no notice and gave a wonderful presentation about our participation in Our Brother's Keeper. So that's my report.
Thank you so much. Any other discussion? Dr. Chator?
Just want to add to what Ellen said. It was neat to be in an audience. It was my first time at one of these conventions, and you're sitting there with other school board members who have districts as big as 200 students from K to 12.
Yes.
And bigger than ours. And then, you know, the whole fact that Miss Adams was just before the seminar gets accosted and asked to give a presentation. I heard from a lot of people what a wonderful job she did, and people were like, go Albany. It was nice to hear. It was nice to hear other people commend us.
And I have to say that it was not just the superintendent. Lori McKenna did an excellent job with making sure that I was prepped with the right information, downloading the information and sending it so that we could prepare that presentation in such a short amount of time. And thank you to Mr. Lesko for also being available with additional information it was a team effort in putting that presentation together in about 2 hours. So thank you all so very much.
Anything else? I just want to say that thanks to the board for their cooperation. Ms. Wilson now is going to be the school liaison to this very school, Arbor Hill Elementary School, and also serve as one of the liaisons to Albany High School. And those were 2 that she requested. So it's always great when we can actually have new board members continue their eagerness to serve by getting the kind of work that they like to do. So anything else? Seeing none, can I get a motion to adjourn? Dr. Chatoor, seconded by Ms. Lang. All those in favor? And it is unanimous. Thank you.